Welcome to the Marketing Unleashed show, sponsored by Tailwind. Listen, are you struggling to stand out in a sea of sameness? Would you like to know how the pros go viral? Would you like to make your content more contagious than the flu at a slumber party? Ooh. But hello, folks. I'm Jeff Sieh of Manly Pinterest Tips, and I'm here with my co-host, Alisa Meredith. We are so happy to have you guys all on. So as we're going along in the show today, make sure that you drop your comments and questions down below, and we will try to answer as many of those as we can today with our special guest. And also, I know our special guest is going to give so much value, and she's going to drop all these nuggets of information. And when she does that, do the hashtag Tailwind tip, and then put her little snippet that you gathered from her knowledge in the comments, and you can be entered to win one of these awesome Tailwind selfie lights. Everybody's got one except for Kim. We need to send her one.
Oh,
put that on your note. So I want to introduce our special guest for you guys today, Kim Garst. My friend Kim Garst is a renowned marketing specialist, strategist, keynote speaker, and author of the Will You Please Stand Up, Show Up, Be Authentic, and Prosper in Social Media. Kim, thank you so much for being here today.
Super excited to be here and super excited about the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I know you just did a webinar about this, so I'm really cool that we're gonna be able to pick your brain for this. So, Alisa,
yeah,
how are you doing
Jeff.
today? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've got a cold. I'm gonna try really hard not to cough. Already with my cough drops.
Don't be coughing.
I'm really excited to have Kim here.
Yeah. So, Kim, we're gonna go right off the top of the show with a bang. I want to welcome all the people who are watching us live, and if you have questions too, you make sure you ask them for the you replay viewers, because we will make sure we come back and try to answer all those as much as possible. But Kim, first of all, your whole thing is this contagious content, which is such a great title. So what do you mean by contagious content? What exactly is that?
Well, contagious content can come in a couple of different forms, in my opinion. But at the root of it, you have to grab attention. Obviously, content for content's sake, if nobody even if they see it and they don't engage with it, then it doesn't matter to them, right? So you have to show up in a way that matters to them first. They've got to be able to, it's got to be eye-popping. I call it eat. Your content has to be eatable. I've always said for years it needs to be snackable, but just from an acronym standpoint, it needs to be eye-popping, attention-grabbing, and thumb-stopping. Because at the end of the day, you got to stop the scroll so that they do pay attention to it. Now, what happens after you get at least that piece of it, where you got them to stop and pay attention? Does it matter enough for them to share it or engage with it in some way? And that's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. When you really have it, you've intrigued them enough that they either proceed with liking it, commenting on it, or the ultimate give is the share.
Gotcha. So is there any difference between what you say contagious content is and what, everybody talks about going viral? Is there a difference between the two of those?
Well, if you don't get the first piece of it, you don't get the second piece of it,
Gotcha.
In other words, if you can't get people to engage with your content from whether it's, you call it contagious or viral, I think there's some crossover in those two terms, frankly. Contagious content to me is what people ultimately want to share. And sometimes not even share it, but engage with it initially. But if you don't get that buy-in, it'll never go viral. So it's kind of,
Gotcha.
they play nicely together. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
I like that, because it feels to me like contagious you can plan for and you can strategize for. Viral is just kind of happens because who knows why. I mean, contagious content is more likely to go viral, but you can't really force viral. You can plan and make contagious.
I think you can absolutely plan for contagious content. Again, if you don't do that piece of it, like I say, you're never going to stand the chance of getting something potentially to go viral. But there is a lot of things you can do to create opportunities for contagious content, for sure, in my humble opinion. I do it every week.
Yeah, so,
All right.
yeah, so we got the right person here. So I want to
Yeah.
do a shout out really quick to some of the people watching here with us. We got Kelly. She goes, "Good morning, Tailwind groupies." I love the sound of that, Tailwind groupies. And Kelly says, she says good morning as well. Amber Dunn is with us. So is Janet. And oh my goodness, Melissa says, "Hi all, everyone has the flu here." So hopefully
they're contagious.
Well, I think you probably got it from actually Alisa. If you're watching the show, be careful. Take your vitamins and be careful. So
and eat more meat, says Jeff.
That's right. That'll fix all your problems. Here's a great thing from Ann. She goes, "Eat, I love it, but I really love Kim's glasses. What a memorable look. I'm sure it was all intentional glasses of the sweater. It stopped me and popped in to see the segment today." See, we just have Kim Garst on every week, and we'll have more viewers than ever before.
That's right. New plan.
And Trish says, "Need content that people want to engage with." Yes. Contagious content, Kim Garst. So there's one of our Tailwind tips. So thank you guys for watching it. Keep the comments coming, and we'll try to bring them up and talk through it with Kim as well. So, Alisa, do you have any specific questions for Kim as we're going along today? I know you already create some contagious content with some of your stuff that you put out. So, but do you have any like burning desire questions you want to ask Kim?
Yeah, I mean, Kim, how long have you been in social media?
About 10 years. And I tell people that I was actually doing social media before it was called social media because in the early days of my business, because I'm old, I've had an online business for 28 years now. And in the early days, I was using AOL business chat rooms and B2B boards and, connecting with people online to generate leads. And, when I saw Facebook, I was like, man, this is like B2B boards on steroids, and it's more of an attraction thing than it is an active outreach, because I always felt like it was always a little uncomfortable to do the outreach or, but lots of times in like AOL business chat rooms, it was community based. So it wasn't as, wasn't exactly the same, but the concept of, connecting online, talking to people online, and generating business through the mediums that were in place back in the day was definitely the kind of the foreground, if you will. I laid the groundwork for social before I even knew that social was going to be a thing.
Right. So it was almost before it was like networking before anything else.
Yeah. Online networking is the best way to describe it for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So question then, because getting an echo. I hope nobody else is. So platforms change, formats change. Are there some things that never change as far as what makes contagious content?
I think the thing that doesn't change and what makes content contagious is human nature. I don't think that changes. What makes contagious content contagious is that it matters in some way to people. And that's the thing that I think we as marketers have to get through our heads, is that people are not on social media. They don't log into Facebook, for example, thinking to themselves, oh, what can I buy today? Or, what tool am I going to use today? I got to find a new tool, and Facebook is going to share which one I'm going to use today. No, they jump on social media to connect with things that matter to them: family, friends, news, a variety of different things. It doesn't mean that we can't generate business through social media, because obviously we do, and it's a proven thing that you can. But it would be like going to a cocktail party and standing in the middle of the room and saying, yo, hey people, I've got a sale. You need to go to my website. It's the same with content. We have to show up and generate content that attracts people to us in a way that matters to them, because it's all about them. It's not about us at all. So what does that look like? It's probably something that elicits emotion in some way, that makes them feel something. So I think to go back to your question is, what doesn't change in this equation is people. They relate and connect with things that matter to them. We just have to show up in a way that matters to them.
Right. So that really plays in with your book title. Will the real you stand up?
Yeah.
Right.
It does. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what tips then do you have for making your content matter to people?
Well, I think that again, how do you show up and be relatable? I think that, every piece of what I would call viral, well, let me start back with Contagious. Every piece of content that I have created that has ever started from an engagement standpoint and then going viral. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. And why this matters too, by the way. So, I'm actually just looking at a post that I scheduled. It was June 23rd, 2014. So that's a minute ago, right? I mean, it's been, what is that? 6 years ago, five plus years ago. And it had 2 million shares, 8.7 thousand comments on it, 141 reactions, as they call them now. And this is what it said. Every time you feel yourself being pulled into other people's drama, repeat these words: not my circus, not my monkey. Not my monkeys, plural. So the point of it is, who hasn't felt that before? Who hasn't been in a situation where they they felt like there was a lot going on, and they just needed to have a different perspective on the issue. So that post, and this is what I really want people to understand. That was posted five plus years ago originally. Do you know when the last time it was engaged with?
I know the answer. I'm not going to say.
I'm just curious. Please drop in your idea or your thought on, if it was posted originally 5 plus years ago, when was the last time someone engaged with it? I just love to see what everybody thinks.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for some of that, I do want to pull up some comments here. Let's see here. Right here. Trish says people connecting is the one consistent in social media. #Tailwind tip. So yes, that is very, very true. And Amber goes, I really love the cocktail party analogy. Yeah, because we've all been in those cocktail parties before where there's that one person, Oh, and here's some of your answers are coming in, Kim. Janet goes, today, and so does Wendy. So there's like 4 people who said today. So are they right?
They are right, actually. I checked before we went live. Wow. And so so lean in. This is what I want you guys to understand about the potential for contagious content. If you can create contagious content and it does go viral, guess what? It is a gift that keeps on giving. Each and every day I have posts that were originally posted 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they get engagement each and every day. That means they're out there in the social space somewhere, and somebody sees it and comments on it, likes it, shares it. And it builds my Facebook insights each and every day, all based on technically old content, but it still matters to somebody, and they're sharing it and they're passing it on, or engaging with it in some capacity. It's a fascinating thing. And I could give you example after example, from the perspective of years old original content. And it literally is being engaged with almost each and every day.
So okay, you have that piece of content that's doing that. And I think Trish goes, everybody is now searching for it. So now, that's what her answer was. So that was funny. I know you've talked about this piece of content before that just won't die. When you first went out and created this, were there certain best practices you were doing to, working to get it to do that? I mean, have you really broken down and dug deep into why that specific piece of content is still going on today?
So there's a couple of what I call kind of rules of thumb when it comes to, and by the way, when I say these are kind of rules of thumb, they're general rules of thumbs for me because I'm not always right. Sometimes I will put something out there and I will be like, oh yeah, this one's going to be it's going to be the hit. And what normally happens during the course of, say, like a week, we'll put out 20 to 30 pieces of content. And the reality is that 3 to 5 of them will have some contagiousness around them. So the rest of them don't always strike. I don't always strike gold with every one of my pieces of content, is what I'm sharing. But my first rule of thumb is, would I engage with that? So, and that's because my ideal client is a previous version of me. So if I figure if I would engage with it, if I would like that piece of content, it would stand to reason that potentially my ideal client or customer would perhaps also engage with that piece of content. Another one is, does that move me to emotion? Does that make me feel better about myself? Does that make me feel sad? Does that, I think when you elicit people's emotions, boom, you win one way or the other. In most cases, most people engage with content from an emotional standpoint. And then I think the other core piece of it really is around that relatable thing. Like, I'll use a quick example of things that we do throughout the course of life. Like, this perfect example. I actually have an image around this. How many times do you put your clothes back in the dryer because you don't want to iron them?
All the time. Yeah.
Right?
Right now. Right before the show, actually. So no.
Right. So the point of it is, how can you bring the real life stuff in and portray it in a way that people are like, oh, you right? I so do that. Then they're like, they feel a connection point because that you get them. And that matters. It matters to them. And so a lot of times people ask me, well, I get that, Kim, but that's not related to my business. I don't understand how this ties together. Goes back to human nature, guys. When you can connect with somebody on a human-to-human level and consistently give them value in that capacity, it has a couple of values. If they engage with your content consistently, then it gets your content back in their news feeds more frequently, if it's Facebook, for example, or Instagram, any of them, honestly. But above that, if somebody feels a connection to you when they need what you have, your product or your service, guess who they're going to think about first? That's why it matters to do things.
They're going to think about that lady who also throws her clothes in the dryer to iron them.
Right.
Because you're real.
You think it's silly, but it is so crazy. I have another example, and this was I learned this lesson the hard way, by the way. I learned it early on in my social media career, and I had posted a photo of myself getting my hair highlighted. Yeah, this stuff's not natural, just saying. And I had tinfoil in my hair. Ladies, you get that because you know what we look like when we go get our hair colored, right? So posted it. It was not a flattering picture, as you can probably surmise. I mean, tinfoil in your hair. And it wasn't the comments that I got. I actually got a private message from someone who said something to this effect. It's not exactly word for word, but it was basically, Kim, if you can put yourself out there like that, I want to do business with you. I generated business off of that photo.
That's awesome.
And so, it's the realness and being willing to show up. And I would challenge anybody today to take a look at anyone who's killing it on social media. And I bet you'll find that they just show up in a real, authentic, relatable way.
I think those are great. Great tips. So I want to kind of move this because I know a lot of people here watching are big Pinterest users. So you've talked kind of the overview of what, how to create some contagious content. You've given us some great examples and some tips on how to do that. Being really relatable, like that photo you just shared. So how do you use Pinterest? Because I know you're big on Pinterest too. How do you use Pinterest to help you create that contagious content?
Well, I just don't pull these things out of my hat. I really don't. I don't wake up every morning with like these brilliant ideas that are uniquely mine. I just don't. I know. Maybe I shouldn't say that, right? But I don't. I source my ideas. So Pinterest is one of the ways and one of the tools that I use to find great content. In my opinion, Pinterest is an amazing resource for finding great ideas. And that's probably a news flash, not because a lot of people use Pinterest to find great ideas, right? Great recipes, great. I was on there this morning because I need some holiday nails, and I was like checking out the holiday nails, and but for me, it's a content a resource as well. And I don't think a lot of people leverage it from that perspective. So if for example, I'm looking for a humorous quote, I want to make people laugh today. I might go to Pinterest and just type in humor, humorous memes, humorous quotes, humor, whatever. And that's how I source ideas. If it makes me laugh or giggle, I'm like, oh, that's cute. Let's take that concept, recreate it. Most memes are just that. They're not like proprietary, like quotes. But if it is somebody's quote, I always attribute it to that person, obviously. So saying that, what I'm saying is you could do the same thing for inspirational quotes or motivational quotes, and get some great ideas. One of the things that is great about Pinterest is, again, you can quickly see things. So for me, I'm a visual person. I would speculate that many of you guys are as well. So I can quickly source ideas, I guess, using Pinterest because it's all visual. I don't have to, I don't have to read a list of quotes from a blog post. I can just see them all and say, oh yeah, this one resonates with me. Or what happens in many cases is I'll see a concept and it sparks an idea in me. I do that quite frequently. Like I'll see something and I'll be like, that's such a great message, but how would I say that? And so I will create a piece of content in the way that I would share it versus the way I see it on Pinterest or any other platform, because Pinterest is definitely a huge piece of how I source ideas.
Very cool. So I wanted to pull up some comments while we're going because we just are getting so many good ones. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Nicole says, dig in the stash. You are my favorite. I'm going to have to screenshot that. Thank you, Nicole. Jennifer asked this. She goes, I have content on my personal blog that's been top posts for me from Pinterest for years. I find that there's some been changes from these last few months with virality, but still performing decently. Have you seen kind of some varied stuff as well, Kim, like things that maybe aren't as good as they used to be, like when you first kind of started?
Well, I'll tell you a strategy that we just started about 3 months ago, because we were beginning to see, sorry, my hair is going in a different direction there. We were beginning to see that there was some slowdown on some of the blogs. So we're like, okay. And actually I reached out to Jeff on this. I'm like, Jeff, what would you suggest around this phenomena that we're experiencing? Because traditionally, and this is another thing that I think, again, just from a standpoint of us as marketers, that sometimes we don't understand that Pinterest is such an amazing traffic source for blog content. sometimes people think that Pinterest is just for people who have products, and so for me, Pinterest has always been an amazing traffic generator for my blog content. But to your point, yeah, we were seeing some slowdown in not all of the blog content, but certain blogs. And so, because I know Jeff's a Pinterest expert, I was like, Jeff, what should we do? And so he suggested a couple of things, core things. And one of those things was what he calls the fresh pin concept. And basically what we did was start creating 5 images for each blog post. Now, I know some of you may be groaning like, oh my gosh, that sounds so hard. I don't know. I can barely get one done right now. But basically, all we do is change out the background image on each for each blog post, create 5 different versions of it. And that has really helped, because just thinking of it from the perspective of the end user, people are attracted to different things. You might be attracted to something that's got, this font on it. And, Susie, on the other hand, would be attracted to, something that's just got another font or different colors or, whatever. So we started doing this, what we call this fresh pin strategy, and it really has improved. In fact, since Jeff's been really helping me with my Pinterest account, what are our numbers up to? I mean, it's been crazy.
Nice. It's nice. Yeah. It's a big boost. So
it's been a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really good.
So I have a question. So you're using Pinterest to kind of give you some inspiration and ideas. Are you using those ideas strictly on Facebook and Instagram, or are you also kind of remixing them for yourself on Pinterest?
All of the above. So basically,
okay.
So we do a lot of, I call it relatable content that's not directly tied. So basically my strategy is around what I call my 5-star compass, things that really matter to me, because I felt when I first started in social media, I struggled with my voice. I struggled to, what do I say? Like, it just felt weird to me. So I had to figure out what really mattered to me. And so when I did that, now everything is funneled through that lens. And I try to show up with humor, motivation / inspiration, and education. So my 5 core things that truly matter are put out into the world in the social space through humor, motivation, inspiration, and education, essentially. And because of that, a lot of the content that I put out is not directly related to my business. It's motivational, or it's humorous, and of course I share that on all that on Pinterest in addition to my blog content.
Okay,
cool.
So if you were to share something kind of personal and maybe funny, like a meme or something on Pinterest, what would you then link it back to?
I actually created a page on my website that's got a lot of share images on it. And the intent was to test and see if I shared all that content to Pinterest, would it drive traffic back to my site, and could I retarget that traffic, etc. And the short answer is yes, it absolutely has done that. So we're a little behind on keeping that page updated, but we send traffic back to my site so that I can retarget people.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I want to bring up some more comments. Christina says this, and we kind of answered the question, but I want to kind of hammer it home a little bit. She goes, I have a pin that went viral several years ago before I even started blogging. I just pinned it the before and after. It's still my #1 blog post today. Is it a good idea to create fresh pins or social media posts for this viral pin or not? And like Kim was just saying, I would say definitely yes. Continue to kind of, and at least it's like, yeah, you want to make sure that you're doing that and keeping that active and keeping that going, because you never know what kind of image is going to resonate. And I know with Kim's 5 different images that we put on for each of her blog posts, they change the background, but they also will move the text around a little bit, and same title, but it's really working, and we're seeing what's resonating. And sometimes it's the last one you think is going to work, but for some reason it resonated with that audience, and then you try to figure out why.
Yeah, and I think too with Christina's case, where she said it was several years ago. I mean, styles change, and there's a very different look to a lot of the pins now. So absolutely, you could create something brand new, and it would feel completely fresh to anybody who saw it, and probably get you a whole brand new audience.
Right.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
I want to say Jenny
And
said
I was also just gonna add on to what you guys, I would wholeheartedly agree with what you guys said. And since video pins are so big right now, you might also try to create a video pin that would drive traffic back to that blog. So I would, there's so many great tools today. Why not give that a go?
Exactly. I wanted to pull up this because I thought it was great. Jenny goes, "Be real. That's what people want. Kardashians are the thing of the past." And Karina was saying this really resonated with her. Ooh, take the idea you see and share it how you would say it. Wow. So she really liked that. And this is a question I think you probably get a little bit, quite a bit, Kim. And it's from, let's see, where was it? Jenny says, do you keep the same pin title on those 5 pins, but only change the image? And so
yes,
we do keep the same title. We do mess around with the description a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she probably means text on image too, right?
Yeah, we keep that the same.
Yes, the title of the blog on the image stays the same. Sometimes we'll change we'll move the text around a little bit and definitely change the images on it so that it has a different look. But we do keep the title on there. One thing that I've seen a lot of people do over the years, and I really think this is important, so I'm going to just highlight it real quick. If you're trying to drive traffic to your blog, you need to make sure that your image has the blog title on it. Like if you read a blog on yoga, best yoga practices, for example, and you had a stream of running water as your image for the blog, that makes sense in context when someone's reading the blog. But if you pin that image to Pinterest and people just see this image of, it looks nice, it's a nice serene image, but it doesn't tell them what's in it for them if they click, and therefore they won't. So if you are pinning images that is trying to drive content to your blog, make sure that the title of the blog is on the image. Else people are probably not going to know what's in it for them to click, and they won't.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And something we do sometimes is we'll change the title up a little bit. So maybe it's a great blog post title, but it could be tweaked just a tiny bit to do better on Pinterest, where it's all about kind of inspiration and giving people that can-do feel. So sometimes we'll share it with the blog title exactly, and then we'll change it up just to give a different spin on it and see if that works better. But usually the keywords are pretty much the same, which helps.
Yeah, and here's another great question, and I know Kim probably has a opinion on this. Karina goes, "What if I don't want to blog? What else can I do to get traffic?"
Oh boy. Well, first of all, I'd love to convince you to blog. I'd love to have that conversation sometime with you. But if you don't want to blog, then what I don't know your business, so I'm not sure what you have that you need traffic for. But if it's product based, for example, then you could do, obviously you could share your products to Pinterest. But again, I think that the nifty part about Pinterest that's so different from other social platforms is it's not necessarily a community thing. There's not a whole lot of social engagement on Pinterest. So it's more about, having great content there that people want to consume. And so without really knowing what your business is and what traffic you're trying to generate, or what you're trying to sell, it's a little hard to give you a hard and fast answer to that. But if you want to drop it in, I would love to give you more detail on that, because I think there's a lot of people that are unsure how to leverage some social platforms, because they don't fit into what they hear people talking about. So they're like, well, that's not my business. So if Jeff, if she does drop in, let me know, and we can dig into that a little more.
Okay. Some other questions. you know, you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I love the term thumb stopping content. So, and Pinterest is such a visual platform, and the smart feed is getting more and more crowded. There's more and more content there. So how can we on Pinterest create that thumb stopping content, like you mentioned? Like, what are some, what do they say? It's like you have like a second to grab people's attention. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How, because people, it's almost like Twitter. Like the feed can flow by really fast. People are scrolling really fast. How do we create that where we can go, oh, that's something I want to look at?
Yeah. And I think, again, it goes back to it needs to be visually appealing. Looking good's half the battle. And I would say looking good is probably 90% of the battle on Pinterest because it's a visual platform. I have seen some content on Pinterest that is pretty sad. That's the way I classify it. And it probably in some cases might do super well, but I do believe you need to look good on Pinterest for sure. And then I think it again just goes back to thinking beyond what your product or service is all about. And not necessarily all the time, but some of the time, so that you can get people to stop the scroll and pay attention, and sometimes, like, let's say, for example, I'll just use my avatar. My avatar is not that there's not other. Let me just focus on my avatar, and we'll go from there. But it's primarily a woman between the ages of I'd say 35 to 55, and some on the fringes of both ends of that spectrum. And she's busy. She's got a couple of kids. She's got some dogs. She's got maybe a cat. She's busy toting kids everywhere. She has a messy kitchen. She shops at Target. What matters to her outside of what I'm trying to push, and sometimes that is, again, it's something that, makes her feel good about herself, or makes her feel some emotion of some sort. And that's the first touch point. It doesn't mean doesn't mean that she won't ultimately buy, because they do. It's just, again, showing up in a way that matters to those that you are here to serve.
And it seems like it's
and that's, I know that it's not like as clear as glass, that because you have to know your who. You have to know your who. You need to know your person. And if you, like I said, my gal shops at Target. She's busy. She has kids. She has pets. Maybe even a husband that doesn't help her a whole lot. Doesn't support her in some situations. Not all of them. But the point is that her struggles are important, and they, you got to show up in a way that matters in her life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, knowing who your audience is, and your audience is going to be different from like Alisa's audience, because people resonate with different things. So I thought that's a great point. For this thumb stopping content, and you and I have had discussions about this before because we're kind of nerdy that way, but what are some of your favorite apps for creating contagious content? Like, what do you like to use to create some of these things?
So, I honestly like, all right, I'm just going to be totally transparent with this, because like I'm an app, I'm a little ridiculous when it comes to apps. Let's just put it that way. I'm just going to open up and I have them broke down into categories. So like, if I want to create, graphics, for example, I literally have like pages of apps. So that doesn't answer the short question though. What's my favorites? So and I'm constantly trying out new ones. But just from a content generation standpoint and how to make things easy for those that are listening, I'm a big fan of creating templates for your content. So if you go to my Facebook fan page, for example, you'll see that my content has a very branded look. And I think when you do create templates, then it's easier for you to quickly put content together, and and it's all branded to you. It's branded to your business. So a couple of tools that I would recommend for templates. Obviously, Canva has a lot of pre-made templates. Easel is another, but one that I'm a huge fan of, just because of the way they have what I would, something that's very popular right now, and the app is Unfold. And the reason, even though it's old, it's an older app. It's been around a long time, but they developed a lot of minimalistic templates, and that's a very popular look right now. That nice, clean look, if you will. So I'm a big fan of Unfold as well, especially from a phone standpoint, just quickly and easily creating that content. So that would be one suggestion. I have a lot of them. So
one of the things that I have found that we've talked about a couple times maybe is that I really like a lot of the Instagram type like story apps where you can create content, and there's a lot of them that come out that way. A lot of them you can use for Pinterest. I'm a big fan of all of like Light Trick stuff with their, they have some new video boost and story boost, and a lot of those ones that lets you create like even Instagram stories, like animation and stuff. Those can be used for video pins, and I know you're a big fan too of Promo. I've had really good success with Promo creating videos, like especially seasonal ones, because they have some really funny ones. You talked about being humorous. That's another great app to use to create video pins. So yeah, any of those Instagram apps I think are really great. Lisa, do you have any favorite apps that you like to use?
I mean, I'm more into Pinterest than any of the others, but I do like Easel quite a bit. We developed some templates with them specifically for Pinterest and specifically for awareness, lead generation, online sales and offline sales, and they do have some beautiful things. I've used Canva for years as well. Those are my go-tos.
Yeah. I would, Easel is one, and I'd like to just give Easel a shout out real quick, because one of the things that they've I don't know how recent it is. It doesn't really matter, because one of the things that I love that their platform does that not a lot do is the ability to make GIFs or GIFs, whichever way you want to say it. It makes it very simple, and I think that is one of the qualifications. My qualifications for thumb-stopping content is movement. So obviously GIFs are very popular in the social space, and being able to create them and not be solely reliant on the GIFs that are in the drop downs underneath, the post that, if you want to post something that, pulling it in from Giphy. Creating your own GIFs, through Easel is super easy. So I would highly recommend checking them out. And they've got so much pre-made content that's pretty stellar.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they keep cranking them out too. That's why I like them, because they're still kind of a little bit secret, and you can find some stuff that you don't see anywhere else. And so they really turn them over quite a bit. And what you said about making GIFs easy on Easel, that's a great thing for motion to add for your video pins for on Pinterest, because I've always called it like Harry Potter pins, because they're like those newspapers that move like in the Harry Potter movies. And so that just catches your eye, and that to me is thumb-stopping content. So yeah, really cool stuff. So
you did mention video on Pinterest. Have you tried a lot of video? What are you finding works?
Shameful to say that I haven't tried a ton of video. Jeff has been pushing me on this, and we have plans on for video. I think it would work beautifully, and I'm totally bought into the idea of doing it, which is why we've got plans to leverage it, because it just makes total sense to me that, like he said, anything that catches the eye, and I think movement is one of those opportunities. So we've got plans to do more video content on Pinterest.
Oh, I can't wait to see. We'll have to share it.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Believe me, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring up some more comments from our viewers today. Diane asked this question. She goes, EAT, when you were talking about your EAT acronym, what does the T stand for?
Thumb stopping.
Okay, so could you go through them again? So E is for...
Yep. E is for eye popping. A is... Attention grabbing. Sorry, attention grabbing. Eye popping, attention grabbing, and thumb stopping.
Very cool. And Lisa, this is a question probably for you because I really, this is kind of a deep one, but I want you to try to handle this. So I'm going to put you on the spot. So
Okay,
Macy
great.
says
I
this.
like being put on the spot.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a break. I know you've been talking a lot, and we'll give Kim a chance to get some water or something. So Macy goes, how do you suggest using Pinterest photo recognition in similar pins when people are searching? That is a super
That's
Pinterest
a good one.
question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me. Thank you.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit, how Pinterest does recognize the items that are in your image and assigns assigns words to them. So it can pull out that there's a dog in it. It can pull out that there's a cake in it. It can pull out a whole bunch of different things. So this is a great question because you do want, if someone searches for, let's say, a raspberry trifle cake, something like that, and they pull up somebody else's pin, you want your pin to show up in other pins like this. So what you want to do, and this is something that I used to use with promoted pins when deciding what kind of targeting to use, and we got kind of an upgrade on this technique from Jennifer Priest, is you want to see how is Pinterest seeing your image. So if it's very important that it's based on the item in your image, you want to make sure Pinterest sees it properly. So what you can do is you can save it to a secret board first, and then pull up your pin and see other pins like this. What are those images? Is Pinterest seeing it as some kind of fruity dessert, or is it seeing it as a pile of pillows? I mean, that's a pretty dramatic example, but it does make a big difference. Like your angle, the lighting will have a big impact on how Pinterest is able to decipher what's in your image, and you want to make sure that it's getting it right. So that's really important for like product pins or recipe pins. But when it comes to like text on image, the important things are going to be more like, is your text legible? So I know Jeff is a huge fan of the curly script fonts, but
No, I am not.
no, he is not. He is not. But if you go on Pinterest Engineering Medium blog, they actually show how Pinterest reads the text on the image. And they show that in this one example where someone had the word bookshops in their pin and their text on image, Pinterest couldn't even read that B because it was too curly. So it was picking up ook shops, which is not the keyword you want to be found for. So just, in trying to get into related pins like that, just make sure that your keywords are legible in the text on image. Hopefully
Awesome. Yeah, you don't want to sell ooks from your ook shop.
No.
So that would be bad.
Ooks are way out of style.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to, Kim, some more questions for you that I want to bring up from our guests. From our audience today. And this is a good one. Jenny goes, for those of us who have a blog that is very seasonally driven, and hers is about gardening, she goes, we notice a severe drop in traffic during the colder months. Any suggestions to keep traffic during the winter?
Absolutely, because it's all about prep. I think there's so many things that can be done in off season that needs to be done. This is something I've worked with real estate agents before. Where there's seasons in real estate too, even though people sell houses routinely, but there's a hot season. There's things that need to be like prepping your house for sale in the winter is totally different than prepping your house for sale in the summer kind of thing. I know it's totally different, but the concept of how do they show up with their content around things that matter to people when they're not necessarily in the market to sell their house in that point in time. So sometimes it's around just education around, what could you be doing like, in the winter months to prep for the spring season or things of that nature, where it is about keeping a consistent connection with your community or prospective community members around things that they know they're going to be doing in the spring or in the summer months or even in the fall from a harvesting standpoint, early fall in particular, I suppose, for gardening. But being a part of that conversation consistently year round. because there is things that you could be doing potentially, just thought, I mean, I don't know your spaces, so I'm kind of pulling things out of my hat on this one because I'm not a farmer, but I do know certain things like, like if you're going to dry some sunflower seeds, for example, what does that look like over the winter months? Of course, that could be a very poor example, but the point of it is, how do you show up from an education standpoint, and keeping you front and center as a part of the conversation throughout the year, because I think it can be done. It's just a matter of what does that look like for your niche?
I think that education thing is great, and I know Pinterest. There's a lot of educational content and how-to stuff that do really well on Pinterest. And in fact, Alisa, I want to get your. I'm going to pull up this question by Wendy, and Kim, I love you to weigh in on this too. But she goes, I have an online store with products that feature my watercolors. I want to send people to my store rather than a blog. Thoughts? And I think, especially for Pinterest, this can be really great. So, Alisa, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, sure. Go ahead. Send them to your store. That can absolutely work.
Like with product pins, correct?
Yeah. Yep, it can work. A lot of times, though, people find that sending to a blog post first works better because then you can get them onto your email list, and email is really where a lot of the selling actually happens. But you can, I would try both for sure. You're not going to miss out on anything by trying both.
Just to suggest, and I see a lot of people doing this, even like arguably the big dogs, where they're driving a lot of traffic to their websites or their blog content, but their website is not set up to capitalize on that traffic. So there's no place for people to opt in, for example, or they're not trying to sell people anything. So they're like, and there's value in having people show up to your site for sure, especially if you're retargeting them. You absolutely can, but that denotes that you are spending ad money. And if you're not spending ad money, then your website needs to be set up in a way that you can capitalize on that traffic, because the chances of that person coming back to your website after that initial opportunity, they saw something on Pinterest, for example, and they clicked and they came, they followed that image, right? And they probably are not, they don't even pay attention to the domain or whatever. The chances of you getting them back is probably nil to none. So that's why you have to make sure that you have opportunities in your blog. So if you're driving traffic to your blog, then do you also have something in that blog that is a link to something you sell? Or do you have something in your sidebar that gives them more value, meaning they can sign up for, 7 ways to improve your gardening in the spring, or, something like that for the previous example we were just talking about. Something that's value-based where you capture that email address so that you don't lose those eyeballs because chances of them coming back are probably pretty slim.
That's great advice.
I want to kind of build on something that Kim was saying before about the gardening and how you could do the education about, say, drying sunflower seeds. I think that's a really great idea. And the thing with Pinterest is people start planning way, way ahead for seasonal content. So, you're going to start earlier than you think with your spring content, probably 1 to 2 months before people are going to start taking action, depending on where they are. Climate wise. But another thing you could think about is helping people to use what they have generated through their gardening. So whether they have maybe canned fruit or they have dried flowers or herbs, talk to them at this time of year when there's nothing they're growing, but they have the fruit of their labor, like how to use it as a gift or how to use it in recipes, just to keep reminding them, and even to bring people in who aren't into gardening yet and make them see, oh, I could have had this winter. I think I'll get into gardening and check out this great content.
I love that. And that spawned another idea from me is you got to also remember that when we are in our season, whatever it is, on the other side of the world, they're in the opposite season. So if it's our fall, for example, in Australia, it is actually spring. So we live in a global world. So just because we are currently not in that season doesn't mean there isn't someone in that season.
So true. Yeah.
Very true. Well, wow, we are at the end of our time together. My mind is blown.
How do we do that?
I know. I mean, I could sit and listen to both you two all day, and I've got to go back, and I'm pressing so many buttons I can't take notes like I would like to. So this has been awesome. Kim, where can people find out more about you? And if they want to dive deeper into this contagious content idea, where can they go to find out more about that?
You can obviously find me at on my blog, which is kimgarst.com/blog. Lots of great free content there. I can be found on social under my name, Kim Garst. My Facebook page, which does strike quite a bit of contagious content each and every week, is, of course, facebook.com/KimGarstBiz.
Awesome. And your Pinterest account is too. We'll make sure to drop that in. I believe it's Pinterest.com.
Kim Garst.
Yep, Kim Garst. So make sure to check that out. And Lisa, as always, it's been amazing. And don't we have a special that we wanted to talk about?
There's something we want to talk about, something kind of new, because it seems like a lot of our wonderful audience are already Tailwind members, and we love you and thank you very much for all your wonderful questions and for always being here. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of the Pinterest affiliate program, or the Tailwind affiliate program rather. So you can earn recurring money by encouraging people to sign up for and upgrade for Tailwind. And I'm going to drop some links in there. We're going to have Melissa on because she has all the details about this and has worked with our affiliates for years. But if Tailwind is something that you're talking about anyway, you might as well benefit from it. So I'm going to drop that link in there for you. And then, yeah, we'd love to have you be an affiliate. We will sometimes promote our affiliate content. We share it. And can
you say that link out loud for the podcast listeners as well? So.
Yes, of course. Good idea. Thank you. It's a bit.ly link. So bit.ly/live SAS.
I just wanted to double check that I had that right. So it's there on bit.ly/live SAS. That's all lowercase, all smashed together. And so we would love for you guys to come check that out. Kim, thank you so much. Thank you for you guys. You had so many great comments. I know you guys were asking for a list of apps, and we will try to go back and put all those links back into the comments. And so if you're listening to this, make sure you go to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Tailwind app, I believe. Am I right, Alisa? Nod your head that I said it right.
It's just Tailwind.
Just Tailwind. Sorry. So
yep.
Facebook.com/Tailwind, and you can see these. If you're listening and want to get all these apps that we're going to drop in the comments, you can go and check it out there. And as always, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week. Bye now.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Kim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.